Touchdown Tampa Bay. You're listening to the Pewtercast.
Welcome to the Pewtercast. I am Brent Allen, your host. This is our Final Thoughts episode for the Bucs versus the Saints. I am not here alone. I am joined, as always, by my good friend, Ren, the morbid one, Daxed. Ren, how you doing tonight, buddy?
What, just because I predicted the Bucs win 1-0 because the Panthers' plane goes down in the Atlantic?
Yes, 1-0 to a forfeit because the entire team died. The morbid one.
I did not say died. I said they went down in the Atlantic. Plenty of people lived.
That's fair.
The people that lost lived.
Sorry, we can't make it to the game. We're all swimming right now.
We're in a life raft surrounded by shark repellent.
We're going to be late. We're not going to make for kickoff. Just go ahead and forfeit.
We're being towed back into shore.
Well, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, Ren and I actually just finished recording with our friends over at the Panther Nation podcast. They've been gracious to us having us over there to preview this game coming up against the Panthers. So you guys make sure you go check that out. Ren, you were also a guest almost kind of simultaneously at the same time at the C3 podcast, which is another Panthers podcast as well. So if you guys want to go download some Panthers podcast, at least we'll be there to talk about it. So you guys can check those guys out. But Ren, we're not here to pimp other podcasts. We're here to talk about our podcast. We've got a great guest lined up for tonight.
Yeah, we do. One of the classics. Probably the most zen person because he has to be.
Right.
Can you imagine trying to spin Buccaneers season after season after season?
Scott Smith, our guest this week,
from Buccaneers.com.
From Buccaneers.com. Thank you. He reminded us at one point. He's like, I'm an NFL employee, and if I speak bad about XYZ, I can get fined. And so I'm thinking Scott Smith shows up on a Wednesday and he's got a little tag hanging, from his chair or his desk or his computer monitor.
For your comments on the Pewtercast.
Right. You've been fined. Right.
Sorry, Scott.
Right. So, but Scott is here. We're going to get to talk to him about really all sorts of things going on with the Buccaneers. He is there, and he gives us a little bit of insight into what's happening this week at the Advent Health Training Center, which I found somewhat fascinating. We'll get into that on the backside of this intro and then his interview as well. But Ren, after that, we are you and I, of course, we will wrap up this Buccaneers versus Saints game. Final thoughts on that. We've had a chance to kind of digest it. See what's different now from maybe a couple days ago during the Instant Cast. And then we're going to get to some fan emails. We got a couple new iTunes reviews. We'll give you guys a shot. We've got a handful of those emails to get through tonight. And then, as always, later in the week, we've got Buck in the News coming back up. We've got Instant Cast and all that kind of stuff as the Buccaneers fly out to London to play the Panthers this weekend. But for right now, guys, it is Scott Smith coming your way on today's episode of the Pewtercast. Friends, let me ask you a question. When was the last time you took that special someone out on a date? How expensive was it? The average date night these days costs around $115, and that doesn't even include babysitters for the kids if you need them. Now look, I don't care who you are, that's just plain expensive, especially if you're on a budget. Well, what if I told you that you could have an incredibly fun and unique date night for the next 6 weeks, or even 6 months, for around $30 a night? Well, you can with Hunt a Killer. Hunt a Killer is the murder mystery box that immerses you in an ongoing experience in the comfort of your own home. With every box or episode, you'll dive deeper into the case, sift through the evidence and the case files, and you'll be running red string from pin to pin on a map until you crack the case and catch the killer. Now, if you've been listening to the show, you know that I've been trying out Hunt a Killer this summer, and I have just caught my first killer. Well, not just me, my wife and me. And I gotta tell you guys, we loved this game. It was so much fun. Not only are we going to be diving into the new series coming out really soon, but this time we're going to be doing it with friends. So I guess that means double dates for me for a while. Listen, guys, this is a great, cost-effective way to spend time with friends and with loved ones working together and having a good time. Now, if that sounds like fun to you, I've got a special offer from Hunt-A-Killer. Just go to huntakiller.com and use the code PewterCast for 20% off your first box. Again, make sure to use the code PewterCast, that's all one word, for a 20% discount and to show your support for the PewterCast. See if you have what it takes to hunt a killer.
We had some people on who talked about, after the Giants loss, and they said, like the feeling in the locker room was different. Like they really were truly over that. They come out and they, even though the defense obviously struggled, the offense did not put up a ton of points, score enough points to win the game for them. And then we come back and, we have this where the defense struggled, especially the secondary. The offense struggled. Jameis looked hesitant with the ball like he did in the 49ers game. How is the locker room now? Like if it was after the Giants game and people, that were in there and have talked to us said they were truly over that Giants game, like it was forgotten, it's done. Is that the same feeling you're getting, with the Saints game?
Yeah, and of course we haven't had, it's been Monday. There was a very brief open locker room on Monday, and then today the players had the day off. So we haven't had one of those real open locker room periods yet. But the coaches today, and several people remarked to me that the coaches were in a very, obviously notable positive mood. Like everybody was really like in a positive mood. And I don't know what you would attest that to. If I'm just guessing, I would think you're looking at the opponent that's coming up and thinking, okay, we feel good about this. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because Tuesday is a game planning day. Monday's a review day. Tuesdays the players are off, and it's a game planning day for the coaches. And if they're walking around in a good mood, I'm feeling good. I'm not putting words in their mouth, but I'm thinking they're seeing what they're seeing on film and thinking this works. I have a good feeling about what we're going to do here. As for the players, I feel like this team. We were trying to decide on our podcast earlier today when we were recording it, what's the identity of this team, and it's not clear yet. I think that's obvious. But if they could rebound from this one, considering what happened after the Giants game, after the San Francisco game, I think one thing you could say about the team that's maybe an identity is resiliency. And yes, we have to string together some wins. But if you can come back from disappointment and things you clearly did very wrong and have a good outing the next week, that's a good start.
Yeah. So we're a little bit past the quarter pole. We're 4 games in, 5 games in. Now looking back from, I was at training camp, every day, just about. Of course, you were there every day. What you saw, what I saw. Has this season gone about just as opposite as you thought it would? The record might be close to how, realistically, being realist, like, okay, this is kind of close to the record we thought it would be, but it's just been, the whole thing just like backwards and topsy-turvy. Like, is it hard for you to figure out what's going on with this team as it is seen with like fans and everybody else?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the secondary seemed like it was in much better shape heading into the season. I thought we felt better about it. It wasn't too bad in the first couple weeks, but obviously things are not going well in the secondary. I think that's the biggest thing that isn't what I expected. Otherwise, you did probably think the offense was in pretty good shape. The offensive line seemed to be, I know we have some injuries now, but they seem to be gelling. I would say I'm not sure it's 100% different than what I thought it would be, but the secondary not being as good as you would have thought in the preseason is the eye opener. And maybe the opposite of that is the pass rush, except for this past game, has been maybe better than you would have expected.
Scott, I want to kind of drill down onto that, and I don't know how much you're allowed to say or where you can go, just given your affiliation with the team. So lots of forgiveness if you have to dodge this question. But BA said in his press conference, I think it was the one immediately following the game, speaking of that secondary, he's like, yeah, we've got some guys there that are soft. We've got some things there that are just soft. Yet back in training camp, he declared guard, secondary's totally fixed. What, like, can you give us any insight into, where is he with that? And then, we hear you say, just earlier today, everybody's kind of walking around in a good mood. I know for fans, we hear a coach come out and actually say, we got some guys there that are soft. A lot of fans start going, okay, changes are coming, or something's getting ready to happen, or like what should we do with that? I don't want to say information, but with, when we hear those things, like what do we do with that?
Well, that was a lot there. And I said that the coaches were in a good mood. The players weren't here today. So, right. And I said the coaches were in a good mood based on, I'm guessing, on their film study and what they're planning going forward.
Sure.
I do think that Coach Arians said that that players were soft. And I would say that he isn't necessarily saying that we have soft players in the secondary, that they were soft in that game.
Okay.
And I know that's a horrible insult to players. That's a terrible insult, and I don't think he's pulling any punches here.
Right.
That's one of the worst things you say to an NFL player, right?
Right.
I think it's an attempt to give him a kick in the pants, to be honest with you. And he said some of them, I don't remember the exact phrasing, but they would stick their nose in there, and some of them were being soft. And I think it's an attempt to get them to not play that way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And here's the thing that I would say about all of these things. I was watching the game last night, the San Francisco-Cleveland game, right? And San Francisco just destroyed Cleveland. And I think probably the reason they destroyed them so badly is because the pass rush was incredible, right? Nick Bosa looked like a superstar in the making. Baker Mayfield couldn't do anything. And the announcers, as you're listening to this game, you would think, okay, San Francisco has this amazing pass rush, and they have the Rams next week. They're going to dominate them. They're undefeated. Every game they play, no offense is going to be able to operate against them because this pass rush is so great. I would say that the 49ers have a strength as a pass rush, and it showed in that game. But that doesn't mean next week they're going to get another 6 or 7 sacks. My point being, everything that happens in 1 week in the NFL doesn't necessarily happen again the very next week. People think that the events of one game are predictive of what's going to happen for every game going forward. Do you guys follow what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah.
No,
I think that the Bucs
sure,
had a bad game in the secondary, and actually 2 bad games in a row, and there are things that they have to fix there, but that doesn't mean that these guys are incapable of playing it the way that their coaches want them to play. I think the coaches believe that there is talent in the secondary that can play the way they want them to, but they definitely did not in that game. So I don't think that our locker room is going to be torn apart by the fact that Coach Arians said that players were soft in that game. I think it's going to be galvanizing for them. I think they're going to take that to heart. Think about the fact that most of these guys are very young players, and young players are going to be more impressionable by what coaches say, and they're going to hear that, and they're going to, I would assume, take it to heart.
Right.
Yeah, it's a week-to-week league. We all know
that was kind of a long rant. Sorry about that.
No, that's do your thing. No. That's why we ask these questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and thanks for going there, because as a fan podcast, as we bill ourselves, you could have easily just dodged that, and you didn't. You actually attacked it, and that's, it's what we're talking about this week. So, and not we, we as a fandom as a whole. Like, I keep hearing that keep coming up. Sorry, Ren, I cut you off.
No, that's cool. Yeah, we know it's a week-to-week league. Everyone's overreactionary. It's part of being a fan. Like, we're all guilty of it. It can be frustrating. I have no idea how you have done it for 20 plus years, having to, sort of talk people off the edge. Maybe not the last 5-6 years more with social media, but let's talk about things, as they are right now, about to go into a bye week. Like, there were so many, for me at least, there were so many questions going into the season, like the offensive line, like Ronald Jones, like, they keep telling us about Chris Godwin, but we hadn't seen it yet. The linebackers, the pass rush, of all the question marks that were there, most of them, if not 90% of them, have come out positive. This coaching staff have taken pretty much the same players and turned all the negatives from 2018 into positives in 2019. So just looking over the season as a whole right now, what was your biggest surprise for you, or something that, you know what, you knew that always could happen and you're glad you're seeing it now, or, you know, along those lines, like what has been, I guess, the most pleasant thing watching this team so far this season?
Yeah, Ronald Jones is an obvious answer, and I think he's a real NFL running back. There were obviously reasons to question that after last season, and there have been missed second and third round draft picks for this team in the last decade or so, and it's easy to look at that one and go, it happened again. But I think he looks like a real NFL running back. I think that the game situations have not allowed him to really completely explode onto the scene yet. Peyton Barber is a good running back, so I'm not suggesting that he should be taken out of the picture, but I think that Ronald Jones, I see him making cuts, quick cuts, second level cuts. He had 78 yards worth of plays called back in that Rams game on 2 runs that broke free, and they weren't probably penalties that would have affected the outcome of the play, but that's what happens in the NFL. I think he's that big play guy that we were hoping he was when he was drafted. And as of last January, I would not have been optimistic about that being true. Honestly, I would have just thought it was a miss. But to me, he's the biggest, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but pleasant surprise. He has, maybe the situations haven't allowed him to have 500 yards at this point, but what I've seen from him when he's had his chances have been almost uniformly good.
Right. You mentioned the penalties there, in the Rams game, and some of them seem phantom, and then we can go to the Saints game and talk about which everyone thought was an obvious, OPI, and then wasn't called, and then if the refs would have done their job and not blown the whistle dead or not blown the ball dead and waited till somebody recovered the football, they would have had a clear recovery. And what is a clear recovery? I think I know what your answer is going to be here, but this is more of like, I'm wanting you to help talk Buccaneers fans off the ledge, and it's going to be kind of a silly question, or maybe it's not. Do you feel like that the rest, the league, is there a conspiracy theory out there that, that the Bucs just aren't getting their fair shake against, the better teams in the NFL just because of, not to say we're the Bucs, but, you have to win to get respect, like Brady gets calls that Jameis doesn't. It's a fact.
No, I don't think there's a conspiracy theory, and I'm sure that's what you expect me to say. I do think that the pass interference, the DPI and OPI reviewability on these is a disaster. I don't think it's a conspiracy against the Buccaneers. I think it is. I have to be a little bit careful here, guys, because I'm an NFL employee, which means I can get fined, believe it or not, for being critical of officials. So please don't take this as criticism of officiating. From watching what's happening, my thought on the matter is that the NFL
it's going to side
realized
with
during what's that?
I was trying to help you out. Here's my theory. Maybe you can disagree with it. That if it's not as bad as it was in the NFC championship game, which brought this on, that they're going to stick with the call in the field. It's almost and what stinks about it, that's not what they did in the preseason. They sort of like molded these coaches and let them, feel it out and go, yeah, we'll switch it, we'll call it. And then as soon as the season started, unless, a guy pulls out a gun and shoots the player, it's whatever's left on the field. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, if you were trying to encapsulate what the basic idea of what I was going to say, that's pretty much it. I think that after they passed this, the momentum on this rule was unbelievable at the league meetings in March. Mm-hmm. And then it came about quicker than anybody would have expected. And then in the months that followed, people started thinking about it and going, there's a possibility for all kinds of calls and all kinds of penalties being called on reviews. And do people really want that? And so I think whether it's official or just that's just the way it's gone, that the league doesn't want to give you calls that weren't called unless it's, like you said, unbelievably egregious, like the last Boy Scout with somebody shooting somebody on the field.
Yes.
Because if you ask me, this is, again, I can't criticize officiating. I'm just saying, if you ask me to watch that play and that review of the OPI challenge and I see Michael Thomas push off with one hand, then push off with the other hand, and then Vernon Hargraves stumbles backwards, I personally would call that offensive pass interference. And if that isn't offensive pass interference, I don't know what is.
Right. Yeah.
Do you think I'm walking the line there? I'm not saying they got it wrong. I'm just saying I don't understand it.
Well, and I was having this conversation with a good friend of our shows earlier today. A part of the game is the human judgment, and this is true of all sports that have officials, is the human judgment of the official, right? It's kind of how they saw it, and that's their job, is to call it how they see it. And you may have seen it a different way, but you're not the official. That person is. And so we're going to go with what they say, and that's, and they got to take that on. And I'm actually, like, as a sports fan in general, like, I'm more okay with that thought than I am with some robot calling every single little play, because otherwise, literally every play is going to get a holding penalty on it, right? Like, because as you say, you get that slippery slope, but, let me ask you this, and, is there? I
would say this.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll tell you this. I have been swayed by this in the last couple of years to the point that I personally would prefer that there's just no replay, because to me it's frustrating when you're watching a game and the official makes a call against your team and gets it wrong, and you see on replay that it's wrong. That's frustrating. But it's twice as frustrating when you see a call that you believe is wrong, and then they review it and they don't overturn it, and you don't understand why.
Right. And they don't explain it to you.
I would just rather understand what you were saying, the human element of the game.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It just is what it is. And you're always going to have frustrations when they miss a call, but it's just doubly frustrating with this layer of seemingly ineffective replay.
I get it. Scott, let's change gears here. I want to talk about Shaq Barrett specifically, but I mean, really the pass rush as a whole. And Ndamukong Suh, Vita Vea, that whole line. Will Golston seems to be having a resurgence of a year. You had named this as kind of one of your pleasant surprises, I think, earlier. Or maybe that was right. I don't know. Somebody said the pass rush being better than we had even expected. And Shaq Barrett, I think he's like one sack away from earning another cool 250 or something like that, like with his contract. I think I've heard that. Like what is
good for him?
Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. Go get it, and we'll eat with you, son. But talk to us about how you've been through this for a long time. I mean, Ren said 20 some odd years. You've been around. It's longer than that, I'm sure. You're probably closer to 30 with the team at this point, or not. But you've been around. My point being, you've been around for a long time through a lot of these various defensive lines. Where does this one rank in terms of, or how would you say it now, kind of compared to some of the previous defensive lines that we've had in the past?
Yeah, well, you're never gonna. Well, not never, but it's gonna be hard to ever put together a line like the one for the great defenses of the late 90s and early 2000s, because Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp were just absolutely special players, and some of the other players that were along the way there were pretty darn good too,
Right.
Steve White's and guys like that. And I don't think we're at that point. I think what you have is a three-man down line with Ndamukong Suh and Vita Vea and Will Golston, who, and Bo Allen to some extent, who are really, really solid, but not necessarily guys you think are going to get a bunch of sacks. And they have had a decent number of quarterback hits, but not sacks. And so they're occupying guys and creating one-on-one opportunities for Shaq and Carl. And it's obviously working out extraordinarily well for Shaq. But I don't know if this line has the capability of, I think in 2000 we maybe had like 45 sacks, something like that. I don't think we're talking about that kind of thing. But it's definitely a strong enough unit to base a really good defense on if we can get some of the other stuff worked out. Shaq's stuff is not fluky. If you actually if you go back and watch what he's doing, I don't think he's just getting sacks from, some of those plays where it just lasts a long time and you end up getting the guy at the end, or they just completely blow coverage and you run right through. I think he's making really good moves. I think his technique is really good. His hand placement, the way he can kind of lower his shoulder and get underneath the tackle and get around him and then burst toward the quarterback. I think all those things are real, and I don't think if you took somebody else, like Noah Spence as an example, and gave him the exact same opportunities that Shaq has had, that he would have 9 sacks. I think he deserves what he's got right here, and he's, this is a breakout season for a guy that's obviously going to get paid. Right. And I think it's real. I don't think it's as explosive as a defensive line as what we saw in the Super Bowl era, though.
Right. Do you?
Which is hard to match, obviously.
You mentioned Shaq Barrett getting paid. Do you? And I know your position with the team, so you have to be careful. But I know you obviously you don't always know everything. Do you anticipate Shaq being re-signed before the end of the season? I think we see that sometimes. Like that's the word I keep hearing is they're trying to get him now. They're wanting to get him now. Is that something you think we would anticipate, or is this really something to wait till February?
The whole thing is really an interesting thought exercise because you think about who's motivated when, right? I mean, right now, after 9 sacks in 4 games, who's motivated to make the deal right then? Is it the team worrying that he's going to get 22 sacks and cost $1 bajillion? Or is it the player, strike when the iron's hot? If he goes, and I don't think this is going to happen, but if he goes 5 or 6 games without a sack, and now you have a guy who's 9 sacks in 10 or 11 games, it's not as impressive, right? Right. So it's really kind of walking the tightrope. I don't have any information to share on if we're trying to sign him or not, but I would certainly think you would, right?
Try to get him as soon as possible, right? Yeah, I would definitely think so. But it's been fun to watch. Ren said that through pretty much our whole offseason through training camp was, this defense is going to be fun to watch, and that defensive line particularly has been a true joy for at least me. Let me ask you one more question, Scott, and we'll kind of get you out of here. Let's talk about Jameis for a minute. One of the I think concerns that I have had, and I don't know if maybe you can help alleviate them for me or even confirm them, is especially on the longer developing plays, he seems to be more apt to hold on to the ball, maybe a little more indecisive. And I don't know if I'm reading that right, because on the television broadcast, you don't always see what's happening, 30 yards down the field. You know what I mean? So is it just taking longer for routes to develop? Is he being a little more indecisive? Is it unfamiliarity with the new system? Like help us out with that. Or is he holding on and he's actually doing just fine and just, I'm out of my mind?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, every play's different, I'm sure. But it's funny to hear us talk about this when the complaint about him through his first 4 seasons was that he would just throw it ill-advisedly when he shouldn't. And there's sometimes when you should just go ahead and take the dang sack. So to hear him getting ripped now for holding on to the ball, what do you want, people? Right. I do think I'm sure there's no doubt there's been times where he messed up and held on to the ball too long. Undoubtedly. I think there have been times when he scrambled out of the pocket, and remember, guys, he was the number 1 rated quarterback on scramble plays last year. The Bucs offense, the best thing they did last year was when he escaped the pocket. There were huge numbers when that happened. Right. So you can understand him. I think there's been a number of plays this year when he's escaped the pocket, and you're sitting there going, "Oh, something great's going to happen," and then he still can't find anybody open, and then he gets sacked. Right. And then you say he held on to the ball too long, and is that his fault, or did nobody get open? Was the scramble drill not good? I saw on the play where he scrambled to the right sideline in the last game, I actually was kind of looking at, I'm like everybody else. You foul the quarterback, you foul whoever has the ball, and then when he throws it, you look where it's going. But I was taking a bigger look at the field on this one, and I didn't find anybody getting open. I think people have a tendency on the scramble drill to turn and run deep. They want the glory play, and certainly you do want some people to do that, but somebody's got to come back to the ball, right? So I'm sure there are some plays where the scramble drill didn't really work out real well, and then he gets sacked. I will tell you this: he's had over. I know passer rating is a bit of an outdated statistic, but he's had over 100 passer rating for 4 straight games. I don't think he's making a ton of mistakes. He's capable of making some really good throws. The Saints game was definitely worse than the Rams game, but that's because they couldn't keep the pressure off of him. Right. I don't. That's what I would say about this holding on to the ball too long. I mean, think about what you want here. What are you complaining about? If you want him to start firing up risky passes instead of getting sacked, then you're going to start complaining about the interceptions that occur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I know, I get it, and it's kind of been this because you mentioned, like, think about this conversation we're having compared to what we have had the conversation. It just seems crazy, and that's why I've sort of been in this like middle tug of war because something doesn't seem quite right, but it's not. But I don't want the other to happen either, and I'm so confused, Scott. It's just like, whoa, what's going on? Because I mean, Jameson, that scramble, man, he is lights out when he gets into those situations, and those aren't necessarily situations you want to have happen all the time either. So, Scott, man, I just want to say thank you so much for coming in and taking some time of your night to be with us. I'm assuming you're going to London. When are you heading over? When is the team heading over? I don't even know what the schedule looks like.
We all leave on Thursday at about I think the plane actually takes off at about 7 on Thursday. We fly overnight and get there on Friday morning. Friday morning.
Are you taking any of the advice of the sports science guys?
I honestly don't.
Yeah. Are you taking advice of any of the sports science guys and doing the get your nights?
They have bigger problems they have bigger issues on their mind. I'm on my own on that as far as that goes. My issue is my wife and son are coming over to join me, and we're going to go to Paris through the Channel. So I have no idea what that's going to do to my body. I don't know if I'm going to be able to acclimate to it or at all. I think I'm going to be a wreck when I get back next week, but it'll be worth it, just to see Paris.
Yeah, I've traveled internationally a bit, and I've just come to a spot where I just say, just let it happen. Just let it happen. You'll be all right. Your body will fix itself after a while, and you'll be fine. Scott, man, once again, thank you so much. You got anything coming up on Buccaneers.com that you can kind of maybe give us a little preview of people should be looking out for?
I don't know. I think our daily coverage is pretty good. The one thing that I tell people to look out for every week that I really like is, we have Ronnie Barber this year doing our film session videos where he breaks down some plays from each game.
Right.
Well, it's previously been Anthony Beck, who did a great job. But and this is no insult to Anthony Beck, but I think Rondé's even better. He's just listening to Rondé describe what's happening in the play. A, makes you understand you don't know a whole hell of a lot about football comparatively, and B, sometimes the insights you get are like, oh, I had no idea that's why that play worked. And every week it's good. Or, Rondé's good at everything he does.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, Scott, and I don't know how the division of labor works between you and Carmen. I know we've said this to Carmen on several occasions, but what you guys have been doing really over the last couple of years, but this year specifically with your digital media and what you have going on at Buccaneers.com really has been blowing me away. You guys just have so many good things happening. So from this Bucs fan who consumes all of that, thank you for whatever role you have in all of that. Thank you for what you guys are doing.
Oh, I probably do 98% of it, I would say. Probably 98%. You can tell Carmen that when she's on next.
That was Scott Smith of Buccaneers.com. You guys make sure you go check out everything that they're doing over there at the official Buccaneers website. Quite honestly, if you're listening to us, you probably do already anyway. So, and you guys know, listen, the content that they've been putting out over there at Bucs.com has just been on point, overall, on point. So they got lots of great stuff. But I mean, Scott, man, he's a super easy guy to talk to. You know what I'm saying, Ren?
I do know what you're saying. I think you're saying that he's a super easy guy to talk to. But yeah, it's always great to talk to him, especially, someone who's, we get a lot of the media members on and they're in the building, but he's really in the building.
He's on the other side of the doors.
Yeah, he's on the other side of the doors. His key fob lets him in past that locked door from the media room.
Right.
So it was interesting that he brought up how what a good mood the coaches were in, and he was assuming, and everyone else would probably assume too, it's probably the safest assumption, is that they've looked at the tape and they think they're going to do some things. Because, you mentioned that we did some guest spots tonight on a couple other pods, and what I heard from Al and their quarterbacks, the same thing I heard on the other pod was, we're winning despite this guy, and he can't hang on to the ball to save his life. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for that defensive line this week, which makes me feel better because I don't know if you've heard, I'm sort of down on the middle of the field being open for the Buccaneers.
Yeah, tell me about it. I don't.
Nope. I've said my piece. I've said my piece.
Yeah, it's something. I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I mean, I guess you can sit back and say, hey, they're all feeling good because they have a good game plan, but like, don't they have to?
Don't you feel like you have a good game plan every week?
Right. And I mean, but they still have to address the issues that's going on with the team. I mean, Scott seemed to indicate, and we asked him about that. We asked him about Bruce Arians and his idea of calling out people less soft, right? Like these people are soft. And, Scott's response was like, look, he's not necessarily saying that they personally are soft. He just said they were playing soft in this game, or maybe they've been playing soft. And it's not that they are soft. He's just trying to call the best out of them, which, by the way, and I kept wanting to say this, but I didn't, and I didn't feel like I needed to, but I'll say it here. Like, we've seen Bruce Arians use the media and use the press conferences before to speak to his players.
Oh, yeah.
And we heard it, I don't know. I heard it 1,000 times before the season started of coach them hard, love them later. I love you. I think you're great. It's just your football that sucks right now. So I'm not criticizing you as a person.
Right.
So, I think all of that rings true. So, for anyone who's expecting any big major shakeup of, hey, they're going to go sign some major shutdown corner now, or they're going to release players, or they're going to completely blow up the draft and redraft all these new secondary guys next year again, like, that's probably not going to happen. It sounds like they believe in the guys they have right now. It's a matter of the guys responding and playing better.
And we shall see.
Yeah.
You would like to say that a rookie undrafted quarterback would be something you could feast on.
Easy pickings.
you would like to say that.
Yes.
But you can't.
Yeah, Ren, it's so weird because I was thinking about this while we were in a little bit of a break earlier. You know how like most of the shows, I'll kind of give you like a little nickname in between,
Yeah,
whatever.
Yes.
And like I was thinking like how would I describe myself and what am I really anticipating and where am I in my fandom right now? And the best thing I can come along with is I'm just along for the ride, like wherever it goes. Like I can't get too high. I'm not going to get too low. We'll see where it goes. Like this is a.
Have you slipped into self-preservation mode?
No, I don't even think it's that. I've never really come out of it since Cutter. Maybe it's still that. I've just never really come out of it. Like I get excited. Hey, the soup you're cooking smells good, but I realize and I understand the soup is still cooking or the stew is still cooking. It's not a finished product yet. Like they're still putting everything together and getting it going. And if that means that we have some bad games here or some good games there, or that means that we barely eke one out in the very last minute on a Vernon Hargraves stop, or that means that hey, the pass rush is looking great or the defensive line is looking great, but the secondary is just rough right now, or whatever those things are. I guess got to give them time to work it out and see what happens. And however this season turns out, Ren, and this is what I'm saying 6 weeks into the season, however the season turns out, I'll be very interested to see what they do like through free agency and the draft and stuff next year. Like what do they address? Who do they let go? Because at some point you just got to play with the players you have.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how many people on this team are really the players they want versus this is just who we have to go with.
That will be interesting.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about it yet.
No, we're way far away. But as I say, the stew is still cooking. The soup is still being made. Like it's not a finished product yet, and you just kind of gotta ride with it. I feel like that's where I am. Even coming off of this, and maybe that's where I am coming off this loss to who did we play? The Saints. Coming off this loss, this loss to the Saints.
Yeah, it's but at some point, the stew's got to be done.
Yeah.
And it's what it is. I think, at least for me and probably some other fans out there, listeners and whatnot, like they see the talent on this team. They've seen the team put up 28 points. The offense put up 28 points in 2 back-to-back weeks in the first half. As much as they struggled on offense to sort of, scratch and claw for points against the Saints, it was the fourth quarter. We had them down on their own 9-yard line, and we're only down by 7. Like, as rough as it looked offensively, it was still like
we were still in it.
We were still like really in it, and and then you take that game, and then you take the Giants game, and they were in it, then they lost it, and then they it was so quick. I don't want to say they fought back, but did what they needed to do to get yourself win the game, and you lose. And the 49ers game where it was an evenly matched game, and definitely the difference was the 2 pick sixes for sure. It's just like you look at it and you're like, man, it's like, yeah, I get it, but if you just wouldn't do the same stuff that we've been pulling our hair out about for the past half decade, we'd be talking about a totally different scenario.
Right.
Like other teams win when their defense stinks. You know what I mean? We did do it in the Rams game, but other teams overcome these certain deficiencies, and it's just frustrating when like 3 games out of the year, Mike Evans doesn't get any balls. Like, he's like a non-factor. There's no one in the league that can cover him one-on-one and win consistently. There's just not. You have to do a better job of scheming him open. It's just a little frustrating right now. But again, all said and done, you're 1-1 in the division. You can go, 2-1 in the division, get back to 500, and and see where you're going. Like the Titans aren't any good. We've got the Seahawks. We'll see what happens in the bye week. Maybe they make a move on the offensive line. Maybe they make a move in the defensive backfield, or maybe this "you're soft" rhetoric gets to them because. Again, I know I've said this a bunch of times. I watched them like almost every day in training camp, but I did, and they weren't soft, and they were going against Godwin and Evans and Howard. It's not like it's the defensive backs looked great against the Dolphins wide receivers or even the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver. They don't got a lot of guys, or the Giants wide receivers. Like they were playing really good, sticky coverage. Right. And it just seems like just gone out the window. And I don't understand why.
Yeah. Well, I think it's an important distinction that we as Bucs fans have to, as a fandom, we have to be better about this with our verbiage. Like just because they're playing soft doesn't mean that they are soft, right? Like
I need someone to ask him that question because that's the first thing I thought when he said it. Are you saying they played soft as in like they're playing soft coverage? Or are you saying they're playing soft as in they're not competing? Right. Because there's a huge difference.
Right. But then you add in the third of they have the ability to be able to compete or to play not soft. They're just not right now.
You'd like to think that.
Right.
But we saw it for 3 years in Mike Smith's defense where they were soft.
Right. But you also just said that you saw it in training camp that they weren't. You saw that they have the ability to do it. Right. And sometimes that's just I think a part of coaching, or we could dare bring out the cuss word on this show, the leadership word. You got to call the best out of your people and get the best out of your guys, right? Like that's good coaching, is to be able to get the best out of your players. And that we could be literally watching Bruce Arians do that. I think we've seen him do this several times, even through the media already this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And that's why I sit back and say, Ren, I'm along for the ride. Like I can't get too bent out of shape one way or the other because he's still doing his thing, he's still putting it together. Ren, I got a question. I do want to dig down on this game a little bit. You got to rewatch some of the game or all of the game or
some of it.
One of the things that I kept hearing or that I kept seeing or that maybe even we just assumed, Mike Evans had all of 3 targets in this last game.
Yeah.
OJ Howard, also a complete non-factor. Were the Saints, what are the Saints doing or what was happening that Mike just wasn't getting the ball or OJ Howard's not getting the ball? Because these are you started a couple weeks ago kind of talking about the secondary and saying, hey guys, we got to do something here. I'm kind of over on this offensive side saying, hey guys, what's going on here? Like flags should be going up about this piece over here. So what did you happen to notice what was going on there?
Well, I guess we just need Austin Meadows to play quarterback and slap, Peppers to play Pepper with OJ Howard so he can one-hand some catches like he did tonight in the Rays game. Maybe that's what they're missing.
If anybody hasn't seen that, yeah, OJ Howard was at the Rays game tonight as we're recording this and barehanded catches a foul ball, a home run. I don't know, one of those two.
Foul ball.
Barehanded catches it. And the guy on the announcer was like, that gentleman out there just caught the ball barehanded.
He did.
And it was OJ Howard.
Why is he 6'8" and a foot and a half taller than everyone else around him?
Right.
And has the shoulders of a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
He might be an athlete. No, just
Right.
teasing. I guess it's sort of second on my list. You know, it's not the offense isn't putting up points. You know, we haven't really been like San Francisco didn't stop us. We stopped ourselves. The Giants didn't really stop us. The Panthers, I think played the best against us, but we won the game. So, you're kind of okay with that. You're not going to put up, 40 points every game. We saw what they did against the Rams, 55 or whatever, 48 points and then, 21-0. And then, we played the Saints, and it was more of a Panthers game where it was a struggle to get points, but they didn't get a lot of plays. They couldn't convert on third downs, and it was just sort of a clunky game. And then, when you're tied 10-10 and you only get the ball for 30 seconds and the team gets to score, well, didn't get to score, but they did score twice. Like, basically, the Bucs kick a field goal, ties up at 10-10, and realistically, the next time they get the ball, they're down 14 points. And they went back and they drove down the field and got it within 7. And then it was kind of like a little bit of back and forth there until, we talked about how they went on that 91-yard drive and sort of put it away. So I get – it seems like it's only a problem we don't get Matt Evans the ball if we lose. You know what I mean? Or the offense struggles a bit. I think the offense has been fine, honestly. I've gone on record as saying I don't care who's covering Mike. He deserves 7 targets, minimum probably, because no one really can cover him one-on-one. And what I really think it is, it's like he's being told where the better matchup is. If there's a higher end tier 1 corner in the game and they're going to follow him, Mike, around, they're basically telling him, don't force the ball to Mike. Right. Throw it to Godwin. I don't understand what's going on with OJ Howard. Bruce Arians called him out this week and said, well, he's just not getting open. And I've sort of had this theory working in my head, and I'll tell you, but I'm not really sure I believe it. But here it is. It's like everything has been so easy for OJ Howard, even in college. He was just so much bigger, stronger, faster than everybody that I don't think he's really had to sort of concentrate, get the razor's edge, laser focused concentration, because it's just been so easy for him. And now he's got into a part where to be able to live up to his athletic ability and, his draft pick, whatever, but to get the most out of him, he's going to have to step up his mental game, kind of like his want to game. And, this might be the first step in sort of slapping him around, he's so ridiculously talented and athletic that it's nearly criminal that he's not making some type of impact on the Bucs offense. So, I'm glad he's here. I'm sure every team in the league would take him, if they had the chance. But it's a little troubling. But like I said, it's not really that high on my list because I think the offense has been fine through the first 5 games. Right. They've played well enough to win every game.
Let me ask you this. This has been bandied about, it seems like, every single week. Where do you stand on Byron Leftwich as a play caller?
I think he's fine. The only play call that I scratched my head about, it was pretty much where the game ended right there, was it was like 3rd and 1 or something, and TJ Logan was in the backfield. And I don't remember what happened, but it was a pass and it ended up not being completed. And it was just like, okay, every time Rojo touches the ball, it seems to be something positive. Right. And then you have Barber, and then Dare's your third down back who catches, everything you throw to him. I thought the reason I like Dare as a third down back, he always sort of make the first guy miss. It hasn't been true in sort of the regular season right now, but a lot of the times he's having to beat 2 guys at once. But we'll see how that goes. But then you bring in, TJ Logan. It's like I think it's the first offensive play he's ever been in, and you're down by 7 or maybe 14 at that point, and you needed to score there to sort of have a realistic shot to win. And it was just, I didn't like the play call at all, but I didn't like it because it didn't work. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah.
So if it worked, you've been fine with it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. He got some flack for running the ball, but running the ball and then going to the well once too often. Well, when you're picking up 5 yards of carry, What makes you think that this is the one that's not going to go for 5 yards?
Yeah, I think I saw an article out there entitled, and I didn't read on it, I didn't click on it, but it was titled basically, "The running game is what's holding the Buccaneers offense back," or something, or it wasn't the running game, it was running the ball so much is holding the Buccaneers offense back.
I don't know.
I
mean, there's so many schools of thought, and you can pull up statistics like, like pick out the Ravens last year. They went to the playoffs and they ran the ball all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But then you go to the Patriots, who uses a short passing game as an extension of the running game, or you can, you go to the Rams, who, because Gurley is throwing you saw it against us, but that was sort of an anomaly, but they throw the ball all the time.
Right.
Most of the teams throw the ball a lot because that's like where their weapons are. You know, it's just, and that's the one thing I have against sort of analytics. It's, well, the analytics say do this because this works 60% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if people start doing that more, it's going to drop off because the defenses are eventually going to figure out ways to stop it. Mm-hmm. So it might be 60 and it might go up to 62, 65, but then it's going to start to nosedive. I mean, it's like if the NFL put in the 2-point conversion for the first time this year and the first team to try it got it, you should go for 2 every time. It's 1,000%.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So if you take the analytics and then do what it says, the analytics are going to change. Right,
because you have a bigger sample size.
Yeah, it's either going to go up or down. So it's something that, like, I really think it's more of a baseball thing than it is a football thing, because there's so many things that go into each football play.
Right.
Running the ball depends a lot on, well, just about entirely is how you block up front.
Right.
And if you got teams that don't have good offensive lines that can't run, and you're telling them, well, you should run the ball on 3rd down and 3 because it's a better ratio than it is in passing the ball. Well, they can't. It's there's just, and there's 11 guys out there. There's another 11. There's just too many moving parts to be, this is it, and that's definite. And like I said, if you start to follow what the analytics tells you, those numbers are going to change, and they're going to change very fast, and they might not be what they were, when the year started. It's just kind of weird.
I mean, but you see the same thing in say the private sector, right? Okay, so like you spend a lot of time working in restaurants and stuff, right?
Yeah.
You order, as part of restaurant management, you order food or plan your schedule, plan for the number of employees and stuff you have out, right?
Yeah.
You take a look at what you have historically done over the last couple of weeks, maybe what you did this time last year, and you make your best guess for what you're going to need, and you schedule accordingly, right? Maybe you look at the calendar and what's coming up. But these are all bits of information that go into your brain saying, this is what I'm going to need for this particular day.
Yeah.
And when you get to that day, you may be wildly understaffed, you may be overstaffed, or hopefully you're just right. And you're like, nailed that one. Like, it's one of the things I always loved as a manager, was doing that kind of stuff. It's the same sort of thing, right? I'm sorry. And I'm sorry to cut you off, just to finish that thought. It's the same sort of thing. If you're only using those analytics to tell you something, they're a tool. They're not the definitive thing, right? Like you have to take everything into account when you're deciding on what you're going to do.
Yeah, and even if you're staffed, it depends on how many people can. In the restaurant, it's like, okay, I'll put on 10 waiters. Well, are they your bottom 10 waiters, or are they your top 10 waiters?
Right. Yeah.
Because if it's your bottom 10, you probably need 12 because you're going to struggle. But here's a perfect example. Like, for some reason, when the Grand Prix comes downtown, this I'm talking about St. Pete now. There's a St. Pete Grand Prix. It's always the first race in the IndyCar series, and it goes downtown. Beach Drive, which is sort of like the main restaurant drag in St. Pete, where all the it's across the park. You can see the water. It's beautiful. Everyone has outdoor seating. A lot of these chefs are like really, like, these guys know what they're doing. They're not short order cooks. Like, they create dishes. This is sort of Restaurant Row in St. Pete. There's 200,000 people that come downtown for those races for all weekend. It's Restaurant Row gets nothing. It's like one of the slowest weekends of the year.
Weird.
Yeah, but they have this thing also they do in the park. It's called Mainsail. It's a huge art show. Okay, and like I said, it's an art show. That one is going to be your busiest weekend of the year.
Wow,
you're going to be packed from so you can't just take how many people are going to be downtown. Oh, well, geez, I got to bring everybody in. Well, those people don't come to Beach Drive,
Right.
The people that buy art or walk around and want to look at art and they're going to make a day of it and then they want to come eat outside. That's what it is. The people that go to the racetrack and sit out in the sun for 3 hours, they don't want to go eat Beach Drive. They probably had a hot dog and a Coke. They want to go home and take a shower.
Right.
So it's a tricky business, and I get it both ways. And it's just that when you take analytics, and I don't know how we got started in this stupid conversation, but you take analytics and use it as the only tool for in-game decisions, you're doing it absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
You're absolutely doing it wrong.
And I think that's the whole point. So when we track this back even further to the conversation, because I'd asked you, how do you feel about Byron Leftwich as a play caller? To go back to that. You said you think he's been doing okay.
Yeah, put up 28 points 2 games in a row.
Yeah.
With ease.
Yeah.
I just, sometimes plays don't work. The other team gets paid too. I don't think he's running the ball too much. I don't think he's not throwing the ball too much. Obviously I was not happy with their game plan in the Saints game early. I talked about it on the Instacast, but that's a staff decision.
Okay, so question about the Saints game then. And this was actually a note that I had for the Instacast, and we didn't get to talk about it, but the first half of the Saints game goes by. Our offense is really struggling trying to do much. How do you feel the team? And this is not just the Saints game, but even kind of overall, how are they doing at this? But specifically with the Saints game, how are they doing at adjusting at halftime? Because I remember that was a thing with Cutter and Mike Smith. Like they never seemed to be able to make any adjustments at halftime. Like it was either they'd come in and say, "All right, let's go do that same thing," or they'd come back out and just be flat because some weird thing. Like it never seemed like they were coming back out attacking with a new plan, making big adjustments.
I don't know, man.
You mean you're not in the locker room telling me what's happening there, Rand?
Well, I mean, I'm sure they're making adjustments and talking about it, but it's it's really if they're executing, I can't tell you if the adjustments are bad or the adjustments are good. What I can tell you is that the defense is having a hard time stopping people right after halftime.
Yeah.
Like, the offense are coming out and putting up points, and usually putting up 7 is what it feels like. And, I promised people I would talk about this on the Instacast about deferring against not deferring. And it's a real simple equation for me, and I don't really think it's debatable. You score points when you have the ball, period, end of story. There's 2 ways where you can steal a possession or get an extra possession or prevent the other team from getting a possession. There's 2 ways to do it. Okay. One is a safety. You get points, even though it's only 2 points, and then you get the ball back. Okay. The other way to do it is by deferring or getting the ball. What you need to do is receive the ball in the second half because you can absolutely manipulate the clock on how you drive down the field at the end of the second quarter and decide how much time to leave on. And what you're going to do is leave no time or not enough time for the other team to go down and have, a legitimate shot to score. So what you're doing is you're getting the ball twice without them getting it once. So you're stealing a possession. And if you win the toss, the only way to do that is to defer. Now, I understand that there's this argument, well, you get, your defense is bad, so you don't want to put them out on the field. You don't want to be down 7-0 for the offense, hits the field. Or, your offense is good. They're the strongest part of your team, so you want to get up 7-0. How many NFL games, have anybody won 7-0 or 7-6 or 3-0?
I'm going to guess not many.
Not many.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who scores first. It's who scores the most.
Sure.
And that's why if they come out and score a touchdown, guess what? You get the ball. They don't get to keep it.
Right.
If you go down and score a touchdown, they get the ball.
Right.
So the only way for you to get the ball twice is to get the second half kickoff. And I've seen it done time after time after time, and it got done to us, last week. It almost happened to us in the Giants game, but we had, we got down there and kicked a long field goal to get some points back on the board. But, you score with a minute or less left, and then you get the ball, and that's where we lost the game. It was 10-10. We kicked the ball off. We didn't get it until like 5 minutes, 6 minutes had ran off in the third quarter, and we were down. The next time, besides that 30 seconds where you don't have time to score, besides that 30 seconds, the next time the offense had a legitimate chance to score, they were down 14 points, and there was nothing they could do about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they went 3 and out. They didn't throw an interception.
Right.
They didn't punt.
Right. And, this may be jumping the gun because we would normally save something like this for our Buck in the News show. But Bruce Arians did say in one of his press conferences this week that the way the defense is playing, that might make him rethink deferring to the second quarter.
And I just don't understand why you don't do it all the time.
Yeah. So I'm not going to argue that what they've been doing is right or that you're wrong or anything like that. This is one of those situations, like, hear me loud and clear. I'm going to agree with you. If I'm trying to put myself in their position and think why have they been doing it? The only thing I can think of is that to start the season, they're like, okay, listen, our defense is pretty good. We can trust them to stop. This team has had problems getting off to a fast start. So let's get the ball, let's get it going, and let's get a fast start and keep running. And we'll trust our defense to stop them coming out in the second half and prevent them from going up 14 points. But that's not been working because the defense has been playing softer than what, Bruce Arians anticipated them to be playing. And it's bitten us in the ass a couple of times this season already. Just 5 games in, it's already bitten us multiple times where, teams have come out and effectively scored 2 touchdowns back to back before we really had a chance to do much about it. So, and now he's saying, we might have to switch that up. Bruce Arians also strikes me as a stubborn old fool. I don't know that he's going to switch it up. He might stick with it. Hopefully, he makes the right choice, whatever it is. So that's the only reason why I could think that they might be doing it like that, or why they have been doing it like that. But I'm with you, Ren. Like you've sold me on the idea. I would like to see them defer, as, by the way, you see a lot of teams do.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, Ren, I don't know how often have we actually won the coin toss versus we lost the coin toss and they deferred. So that's why we got the ball first to begin with anyway. I'm just not sure how often that happens this year.
I think we've won the coin toss 3 out of 5.
And lost the other 2, and they deferred both times. So we've gotten the ball first, just like every game so far this season.
I think so.
Yeah. So it'll be something. It'll certainly be something to see. All right, Ren. You got anything else for us from this game as we're putting the Saints game to bed? Like I don't really have. I thought that I'd have like a whole lot of extra thoughts and stuff after the instant cast, but like I said, I really don't. Like I'm just kind of on to the London game and am ready to turn the page.
Defensively, I don't know what to tell you. I don't. It seems like if the defense does not get heavy pressure, that the secondary is just like they're going to get toasted. And there's still communications problems back there, which is extremely frustrating for me.
Yeah.
3 of their 4 touchdowns, by the way, Teddy Bridger's touchdowns were in the middle of the field because middle of the field's wide open. Offensively, I think they're fine. I thought Jameis had like a indecisive game like he had against the 49ers. And I felt like they possibly talk to him and say, look, trust what you see, drop back, put your foot in the ground and fire the ball. And he did that for 3 weeks, was one of the best, if not the best quarterback during those 3 weeks. And then he had a game where maybe he didn't know what he was seeing, maybe he didn't trust what he's seeing, or maybe he was trying to get the ball to the Scotty Millers and the, Bobo Wilsons and getting and flipping it out to the backs because that's what he was told to do. So and
then he's getting all this extra. I mean, would you agree this Saints game is probably the worst the offensive line has looked yet this season?
Oh yeah.
So
and they were still fine in the run game.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. You compound all of that, right? Compound all the stuff that Jameis has going on with his head with the offensive line has a bad game.
Yeah, and Jameis was a little erratic early, and instead of like getting it to the guys that he has the next level chemistry with, which is Evans, Brate, and Godwin, they continued to try to feed it to other people. And it, about the time, even we only had 21 plays, like the Bucs will put up 10 points. You're like, 10 points, not a big deal. But it was 10-10 with like 4 minutes left in the half.
Right.
So, they were doing enough with 21 plays. And so they probably did it with like 18 plays because at 30 seconds, I think they ran the ball twice and took a knee or something. So like 3 of those plays were in that garbage possession where they weren't going to do anything with it. So, I mean, it's hard to blame the offense as much as Mike Evans isn't getting involved or O.J. Howard is getting involved. I mean, they didn't have their best day, but the Saints are really good. They have a really good defense. And, the way the Panthers have been winning these games with, this Allen guy is through defense. And before our game, the way the Saints have been winning with Teddy Bridgewater, was defense. So it's just unfortunate. It was just a game where everything was laid out for you. You could have been, tied for the lead, but since you beat them, you'd be in the lead, through tiebreakers. And it would have been an exciting time going to London after already beating the Panthers. Oh God, we could go 4-2. Like this is going to be, wow, something could happen here. Like, and it was just yanked out under our feet because of, just crappy secondary play. So that's all I got.
You know what we haven't talked about, or what we haven't blamed any of this on?
A kicker.
Bad officiating.
I don't even know.
Well, I mean, and we said it and I still see so many people talking about it even this many days later. And you go, yes, there were a couple of really bad calls. Yes, the NFL doesn't really know what to do. We talked about the bad, officiating with Scott. During the interview, the two blown calls, I don't want to say they didn't affect the outcome of the game, but they weren't the only reason that we lost.
Well, the fumble didn't.
What do you mean?
Well, the fumble didn't because, even though a player fell on it, we got the pick and then we got the touchdown. We're up 7-0.
Scored, right.
So that was kind of a wash.
Right.
And even though, yes, Michael Thomas pushed off, but were the Bucs going to stop him?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. That's exactly what I'm saying. So, so for both of those, I mean, you just negated why for each one of those two plays, the bad call, you just negated the idea that a bad call changed the outcome of the game or changed, what happened. And we don't play the parallel universe timeline or game or anything like that here on the show. But
what does get frustrating is when you watch other games like the Sunday night game and the Monday night game, and you see these other teams get this call, like when Dak Prescott got tapped on the helmet. And they called roughing the passer. I mean, the guy didn't even tackle him. He broke free and ran. And it's like, and you're watching the Saints game, you're watching Jameis get hit in the head, like when he's throwing the ball. You watch him get hit in the head when he's getting sacked. And it's just like, oh, well, you feel like, oh, well, it's Jameis, Kind of like I'm sure Panthers fans feel like when Cam Newton was. Remember when he was running the ball all the time, winning the MVP?
I mean,
people were lighting him up, like helmet to helmet, like almost game to game.
Right.
And it's just like, well, you're bigger than most people out here. You just got to take that kind of stuff. And it's
Isn't Jameis like the biggest quarterback in the league this year or something like that?
Yeah. Thank God no one's talking about his weight, right?
Yeah. Let's not start. All right, Ren. That's going to do it for us then. We kind of put this one to bed. That's going to do it for our final thoughts. Coming up next, guys, in our next episode, releasing here in the next day or so, we're going to have your final thoughts. Ren and I are done giving ours, so now it's time for you guys. You guys have been sending in emails, questions, comments, iTunes reviews, all that kind of stuff. We're going to go over that in the next episode, so you guys be on the lookout for that. And then also, we'll have our Buck in the News show here coming up towards the end of the week as we really begin to take a look at and preview this London game coming up this coming week. So you guys definitely be on the lookout for that. Ren, why don't you tell the folks out there where they can find you on the internet?
Best place to find me on Twitter at Rendax, REN_DAXT. I'm always down to talk Buccaneers football.
And if you guys want to get in touch with me, you can find me at Brent Allen Live across all the social medias. And if you'd like to contact the show, you can do that to thepewtercast@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at thepewtercast on Twitter, or you can Facebook message us on Facebook /thepewtercast. Lots of different ways to get in touch with us, guys. You guys can do that there as well, too. Well, Ren, that's going to do it for this half of the Final Thoughts episode. We'll see everybody back here in just a couple of days, but until then, go Bucs.